What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Crossover U College Hoops Talk podcast, brought to you on the Crossover channel. My name's Kanaye. I'm joined with Josh, and today we're bringing you guys a list of us ranking the last 10 most outstanding players of the NCAA tournament. Of course, we just saw Walter Clayton pretty much just go off every single game. All six, he was just balling. Some of the most incredible shot making that I've seen from a player. Really one of the crazier tournament runs we've seen out of a player. And honestly, I think his most outstanding player run will be remembered for a long time in Gainesville and across all of college basketball. But we're going to be bringing you guys our rankings for the last 10 MOPs. And at number one, I think me and Josh both have Walter Clayton Jr. Again, for the reasons I just said. Just the shot making. Josh can speak on it too. It's something that you don't see for very often at all whatsoever. It's up there with the likes of Kemba Walker's run and some of the other crazier just runs we've seen out of one player ever.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that we really do need to touch a little bit more on how amazing Walter Clayton's MOP performance and just general tournament performance he's had. Because even going back to last year, he was great in the tournament. And I honestly think that he's made for these big moments. We'll make him a great draft prospect in the NBA. But in the college world, the comeback against Texas Tech, the comeback against UConn, the comeback in the national championship where he didn't score in the first half and then just went off in the second half and had that game-winning almost block on Emmanuel Sharp to lead to that double dribble scenario that ended up being that tournament game. Like everything in between, he's just been insane. He scored the most amount of points in the tournament since, as he said before, Kemba Walker. He is the most points per game since actually also Kemba Walker. I guess the play styles are very similar. They're both incredibly clutch. I really do think that even with this recency bias that we're probably both showing, he is the best MOP of the last 10 years. I don't think there's a reason to convince me on it.
Yeah, I have a really tough time seeing anyone debate against this. Just what Walter Clayton did, just the amount of I'm him moments. I'm the best player on the court. The NBA level movement threes, he was hitting fadeaway threes from the court. As a UConn fan, he hit three of those against us. Just absolute backbreakers. And yeah, it was one of the crazier runs I've seen by a player ever, and he well deserved the tournament's most outstanding player. But for the next pick, I believe we also both had the same pick here. It's Adama Sanogo for his 2023 run in the tournament with UConn. Of course, they won the national championship. He was named most outstanding player. I definitely think it's honestly interesting how he's not really talked about very much with him having the tournament he did. Even as a UConn fan, I forget sometimes that he averaged close to 20 and 10 throughout the 6 games in the tournament. I think it is important to note too that during the Final Four, he was fasting for Ramadan, which Dan Hurley didn't actually know till after the Final Four game against Miami, which I think is just crazy for him to play as well as he did in that game and in the Natty while fasting. It's just really interesting and incredible that he did that. But again, I definitely think he's not talked about enough. Not one as a college player, but two, just for the run he had and being the most outstanding player in the tournament, just being as dominant as he was, is really an undersized 5. I think without shoes, he's only 6'7", shoes maybe 6'9". But again, for him to be as dominant of a post presence as he was that year, I think it's just really incredible, and it deserves a lot more attention to what he's got.
Without that, he is the most underrated guy on this list, without a doubt. And that's mostly because UConn was the most underrated team to win in the past 10 years. This team was, regardless though, firing on all cylinders. It basically never was trailing at any point. Every single game won by double digits. And Sanogo was the biggest reason why. I get it that the team was pretty well-rounded and had a lot of skills, and Hurley was definitely coming into his own in this postseason, and it definitely showed. But Sanogo carried the bag, and I really think that 2 is the best spot, and this is without recent bias. This is now 3 tournaments ago. We're going on 3 tournaments ago, and it's kind of a not talked about thing, which I think really is a shame because Sanogo hasn't really done anything much since he wasn't drafted. That year, he didn't really find much playing time in the NBA, but he had a great career in college, and I think a lot of people.
And I think a theme with this list is a lot of these guys, maybe Walter Clayton aside, a lot of the players who win the most outstanding player award are often the best college player on the national championship winning teams. I think a lot of the reason why some of these guys go underrated and talks about college basketball and the lore and legends of players at programs is because, well, a lot of these guys don't really go on to have the best NBA careers or long pro careers. Sanogo is a great example. He wasn't the lottery pick on that team, that was Jordan Hawkins, who was a flamethrower from three. And Sonogo's maybe style of play isn't as exciting as someone like a Walter Clayton or Dante DiVincenzo, who's coming right up. Just considering he's a back to the basket type of player, plays more so in the post. It's not as exciting as seeing someone break off three threes in a row the way Walter Clayton maybe did this past year. But like I just mentioned, I believe me and Josh's pick for the third best MOP of the last 10 years is Dante DiVincenzo. I was very much a big Michigan supporter that year. I loved watching Mo Wagner hoop at Michigan and Ann Arbor, and just Duncan Robinson, Jordan Poole. That whole team was just so fun to watch. But it's tough when you run into the likes of a juggernaut like Villanova in 2018. And to see not Jalen Brunson nor Mikal Bridges or Pascal win the MOP, but Dante DiVincenzo came off the bench and had what I believe was 30 points in the national championship game. Just, I mean, incredible. Josh was telling me before this video, he shot 60% from three that entire tournament, which is insane. Yeah, I mean, he was on fire throughout the tournament.
Definitely NBA, but when you look at the previous Nova legacy that he had in 2018, I think the MOP gets, like the other two guys that we mentioned before, a little underrated and a little overlooked because no one really thinks about how well Dante played and how deserving he was of not only that MOP, but of where we're putting him in this ranking.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on all the points right there. And at number 4, I got Kyle Guy. Kyle Guy definitely holds a special place in my heart just because 2019 was one of the best tournaments I think I've watched in my life. And just to see how he played in the Final Four, I mean, all around was a really solid tournament scoring wise for him. I think it was around 15 a game. But just you think back to the Final Four, yeah, it was a debatable call on the foul on the Kyle Guy's 3-point attempt against Auburn. But again, he still had to go to the line, knock down all three for the win, ice in the veins, knock down all three, and then followed up with a 24-point performance in an OT win against Texas Tech in the national championship game. Definitely one of my favorite players I think I've ever watched in college. I mean, I think just remembering that Final Four and how he played in the national championship game against Texas Tech and what was really a great Natty game, one of the best ones we've got in the last 10 years. I think that definitely elevates Kyle Guy's status on this list a lot more for me.
Yeah, I definitely see the same. Guy had just insane moments. I do bump him down a little bit more than other people might put him. Some people could honestly see him being one or two. I honestly think that because of the depth that was shown in that team, such as Ty Jerome and Hunter, that he really couldn't have been as good as people think. It is more or less just on what we've seen. The stats aren't actually as good as some of the players that are listed above or even below, but he was there for the big moments. He's probably arguably the most clutch guy on this list, other than maybe Walter Clayton, given time. But his very memorable run and Virginia's very memorable run to that Natty in 2019 definitely deserves him this high spot.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, yeah, again, Kyle Guy, I will always remember as one of my favorite college players I've ever watched. But the next pick that I have, number 5 on this ranking of the last 10 MOPs is Tristan Newton, Final Four MVP last year. Honestly, could have won it the year Sonogo won it just because Newton had 19 and 10 in that national championship game against San Diego State. But of course, he came back to school, ran it back, won another championship. And was named the most outstanding player of the tournament that year. Now, I actually just looked at the stats. He averaged the most assists per game in the tournament by an MOP since Magic Johnson at 7. And I think I'd make the argument that Newton's probably the best all-around player on this roster. On this list. Again, he didn't do anything extreme scoring-wise at 14 and a half a game in the tournament. But just, again, I think he's a really underrated player in the likes of recent college basketball history. I think you can make the argument he's the best transfer ever. Had an outstanding year, being a first-team All-American, Bob Cousy Award winner, and capped it off being the MOP that season. And again, the assist numbers, he averaged around 7, a little over 7 a game in the tournament. What he did as a playmaker, I thought was so important for UConn, but I definitely think he's not higher on this list just because, again, kind of similar with Sonogo, you could have made a little bit of a debate as to who could have won the MOP that year between like the likes of Stephon Cass or Donovan Clingan, with just those guys having a great tournament as well.
I mean, Newton has those moments. He played honestly well enough to Natty to probably win him that award. I remember him getting that really tough layup over Zach Edey, which probably put him over the edge, in my opinion, on that remark. Definitely a top guy. 5 is probably the best spot to put him at.
Yeah, most definitely. And at number 6, I have Ryan Arcidiacono. Honestly, I think he's another really underrated guy on this list. I mean, his efficiency in the tournament was really ridiculous. He shot 66% from the field and 61% from three, which is incredible. Close to 16 points a game in that tournament, added 2 rebounds, 3 assists. But I think he was just so important as a leader for that Villanova team that season. And of course, I mean, I think he's probably most remembered for the handoff he gave to Chris Jenkins for the game winner in that national championship game. But he was definitely well deserving. He was the All American on that team that year. And yeah, I mean, I think the efficiency in the tournament that season, 2016, definitely puts him above some of the other guys on this list. And that's why I have him at 6.
Yeah, I also want to agree with you. That game-winning assist to Chris Jenkins is pretty underrated. I feel hustling down the court to get to that spot, big time. On top of that, great push to get Villanova to that first natty. I think it's a huge deal. Not first natty, but first natty for Wright. I think it's definitely something that once again can go underrated, especially given how big of a year 2018 was for the Wildcats. Say putting him at 6 was a bit of a hard decision because of how almost long ago it was. It was 2016, and so we are scraping on that 10-year line. But he definitely played a huge role, and I think once again, well deserved.
Yeah, most definitely. At number 7, I got the 2021 Final Four or tournament MOP, Jared Butler from Baylor. Again, another example. He wasn't the lottery pick on this team. That was Davion Mitchell, but Jared Butler was so important for what Baylor did defensively. On top of that, he provided a lot scoring wise. Not the most efficient numbers in terms of the shooting splits, but gave him 15 a game in the tournament on top of 3 rebounds, 5 assists. So he did a lot. Playmaking helped Don and Davion with that in that round too. And gave Scott Drew his natty. So, I mean, I definitely think you have to hold what he did and that Baylor team did to a high standard, just considering they beat what would have been an undefeated Gonzaga team that year that was loaded with pros that year. But yeah, I think Jared Butler definitely underrated in the likes of college basketball greats. But yeah, Jared Butler I got as number 7.
Yeah, once again, I do want to just remark on how good of a Baylor team that was. Gonzaga was arguably a team that most people, if not anybody, would have really seen winning. They're probably the best team to not win since perhaps Duke at this point. Given what we've seen from this year, I will say I don't fully know what to think about Jared Butler. I honestly thought Davion Mitchell was the better player on that team, but that's also just because he ended up being a lottery pick and Butler did not. That said, it was a great run, but his contributions are a little bit under the lights, which is why we're leaving him towards the lower half of this list.
Yeah. And at number 8, I got Tyus Jones. If I'm being honest, stats wise, it wasn't really the most exceptional tournament run from him. He averaged around 13, 3, and 4, close 4.5. So he did a lot playmaking wise. But again, that Duke team had a lot of talent around them. And honestly, if I'm being honest, I really didn't feel like he had a lot of the moments that a lot of these other guys on this list had, kind of like a signature moment. You mentioned the Newton finish over Edey or Walter Clayton. I mean, the countless moments he had, backbreaking threes, Kyle Guy or Archidiakono. But again, he was just an important part of a really good Duke team that was able to beat a Wisconsin team that took down what another team that probably could have been one of the best ever if they were able to win that year in that undefeated Kentucky team before they lost. But again, Tyus Jones, really good college player, definitely has carved out a long NBA career, so good on him for sure. But in terms of how you're stacking up his MOP resume against the likes of other guys on this list, it doesn't quite match some of the other guys.
I had a small switch. I chose Uchai Gabi, but because we have a very similar list, I'm going to keep him actually the spot you're probably going to put him at. But I would say Tyus Jones, definitely a Duke all-timer, and considering Duke is that's the last time Duke was won, I think there's a lot to say about how that team worked out. Yeah, they definitely could have been a better team overall, and Tyus Jones been a better player overall, given how we never really performed that well in the NBA, but definitely a well-deserved demo.
Most definitely. And at number 8, I have Ochai Agbaji from Kansas. Again, kind of just like another big kind of role that he played on Kansas. The stats really don't wow you like some of the other guys on this list and what they did in the tournament efficiency wise or anything else across the board. But again, there were other good players on this team like Christian Brown, who definitely could have gotten the award as well. I just think, he probably played the best of the Kansas guys in the Final Four. And you also got to consider, you went down close to 20 to what was an 8 seed UNC team. So I do hold that against them slightly, kind of similar to when we ranked the last 10 national champs. But again, Ochai Agbaji, really good college player. Didn't really pan out in the pros, but of course, I don't. That's not holding anything against them. This is about their tournament runs. But again, the tournament run from Ochai not as impressive as the other guys on this list, so that's why I have him at 9 or
Yeah,
9. Yeah, 9.
pretty much agree with you on that one. I honestly thought Grady Dick could have won it as well that year, but definitely a ton of space for Ochai in that.
Most definitely. Is that where you had Ochai too, or you had him at 8?
I said I had flipped a little bit.
Oh, were you at Tyus Jones and I got you. And yeah, and then I think we both have Joel Berry from 2017 UNC at 10. Again, not a slight to Joel Berry whatsoever. If you're an MLP, you have all the bragging rights in the world. You balled out. You were named the most important player in a tournament where your team won. But again, it's just when it comes down to stats, they don't really impress you all too much. He shot 30% from the field, 25% from three, so not great shooting wise. Averaged close to 14 points a game in the tournament across the 6 games, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. Yeah, and he was just an important part of a good UNC team that beat what was really an underdog Gonzaga team that year. And the tournament run, like we talked about in our ranking the last 10 champs video, their tournament run wasn't as memorable as some of the other guys who played for different teams on this list. So that's the only reason why we have Joel Berry at 10.
I mean, UNC is pretty much known as being, at least this 2017 team is known as being the most least talked about team of recent history, and I think it's not deserved, but it's kind of to be expected considering that run wasn't really that spectacular or
Right.
special. They kind of felt like the front runner for a long time, and pretty much everything worked out in their favor, and the team was very well rounded. So when Joel Berry did win it, it wasn't exactly like he was such an outstanding player compared to everybody else. He just led the team in category that fit best to win the award. Most likely points per game, if you're going to ask me.
But yeah, I think that pretty much takes care of everything we have for this video today. I honestly think it's tough to debate our picks we made on this list, if unless your fandom gets in the way. But of course, all these guys, insane runs that they went on, capped off great season by their respective teams. And I'm excited to see who writes their own legacy in the tournament next year and wins the MOP going into the 25 season. But of course, we'll wait to see what happens with that. Really excited for this year of college ball. But until next episode, we'll see you all next time.